All right, we're going to be doing lesson 5-6, which is graphing inequalities in two variables. And two variables just simply means instead of just having the x or just the number line, I'm now going to have a number line. I'm now going to have an x and a y axis, so I have two different variables. Okay. Now we've been working on graphing linear equations, a lot of y equals n x plus b work. Now we're going to start looking at inequalities, and then we're also going to be solving kind of word problems by graphing as far as inequalities go. All right, so if I'm looking at my first example here, it's going to ask me to graph, and I'm graphing y is less than 4. And just keep in mind that it's the same thing as y is less than 0x plus 4, and that we're going to start up on our y-axis at 4, so that's our b value, our starting position. And then that 0 means that we're going to have a horizontal line. And if you really want to think about it, remember, as 0 over 1, you go up and down 0 over 1, up and down 0 over 1. So it does give us that horizontal line. Now what we do have to look at is there is a difference between when we have a less than or a greater than or equal to. And there's two differences than when we did equations. The first one is I'm going to have a solid or dotted line based on this sign. Okay? So now if I have a less than or greater than symbol, that's going to give me a dotted line. Okay? And that dotted line is just like an open circle, and that it is not part of the solution. Okay? So that's the first difference. So in this case, I'm going to have a dotted line going across here. Put my arrows on the end. And the second difference is I have to shade. And I'm going to either be shading the upper part or the lower part. Okay? And it's all based on this sign right here. When it says y is less than, you need to think about on your graph where is less than. And in this case, less than would be everything shaded below. It's less. So it's everything below the line. Okay? And you would need to shade it good, nice and pretty like that. All right. So now if I go over here to my next example, I've got x is greater than or equal to 1. Okay? So again, this is one of those special cases where it doesn't follow the y equals mx plus b rules. So you have two options. You've either memorized that it's a vertical line, or you can still set up your tables and do your negative 2, 0, 2 on this side. And so you would have 1, negative 2, 1, 0, and 1, 2. Okay? Or you can just know that that's going to give you a vertical line and you are not required to do this table anymore. Okay? Now, since I have an equal sign right here, that is going to give me a solid line. Okay? Oh, and that's used for less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. Okay? And what the solid lines mean is it's part of the solution. Okay? Now, shading still must go here. I'm going to go ahead and put in my solid line. And I'm still going to have to shade. Now in this, it's very similar to the number line. Just see which way that arrow is pointing. And so since it says that x is greater than 1, greater than would be everything here on the right-hand side. Or just envision, remember, make this like a little arrow, and that's what direction you're going in. Okay? All right, so now let's get back to more of that y equals mx plus b problem so we can take a better look at that. So on this problem here, I've got y is less than negative 1/2 x minus 3. So again, I'm going to start at my b value at negative 3. A slope of negative 1/2 says down 1 over 2. And I am going to go ahead and make sure that my dots go all the way across my grid because it's going to help me with my shading. All right? Now, again, since this is less than, that's telling me I should have a dotted line because there's no equal sign. So I'm going to put a dotted line coming down through here. And again, I'm looking at my symbol and determining, is it less than or greater than? Since it's saying that it's less than means shade below. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to shade everywhere below. And notice how I'm shading the whole bottom part here. Okay, don't just shade a little part of it, get all the way across the grid. So when I have the less than, and it doesn't matter if it's less than or equal to, okay, that is telling me that I need to shade below. Okay. All right. Now, last example as far as the graphing goes. we have 4x minus 3y is greater than 6. So I'm going to start by solving for y, and I'm going to subtract the 4x off. So I've got negative 3y is less than negative 4x plus 6. Better x there. Okay, now I'm going to divide by negative 3. Now keep in mind, when you're dividing by negative 3, your inequality sign must switch directions. So I've got 4/3 x minus 2. All right, so on my graph here, I'm going to start at negative 2, up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 3. All right, and I'm looking here. Since it's greater than, I'm going to have a dotted line again. Okay, and in this case, because I have the greater than, it's telling me that I need to shade above. Greater means shade on the high side. Less than means would be shade on the low side. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and shade this. Again, notice I'm going all the way across my grid. Okay. And so again, if I have a greater than, and again, doesn't matter, greater than or equal to, I'm going to be shading above. Okay. All right, so the second example we're going to look at here, it says determine which ordered pairs are part of the solution set. So what we're going to do is we are going to just substitute in our coordinate points, and we're going to see which ones work and which ones don't. The ones that work are our answer. The ones that don't, we throw out. So I'm going to start by plugging in my first part here, which is 2, 3. So I'm going to put 2 times, and all I'm going to do is plug in my x value. So I'm going to take this guy, the 2, and plug it in for the x, and I'm going to take the 3 and plug it in for the y. So I'm going to have 2 times 2 minus 3 times 3 less than 1. So 4 minus 9 needs to be less than 1. Negative 5 is less than 1. So now you're asking yourself, is that a true statement or a false statement? Well, in this case, yep, that works. That's a true statement. So that one works. And I know that that's going to be a part of my solution. All right, so now let's go to the next one. We're going to do 3, 1. So again, I'm going to take and I'm going to plug in the 3 to the x position and the 1 into the y position. So I've got 2 times 3 minus 3 times 1 is less than 1. So 6 minus 3 less than 1. 3 is less than 1. Okay, now in this case, this one does not work. 3 is not less than 1, so I'm going to throw this out. This is not going to be part of my final answer. Okay? And on the last one, we're going to do 0, 0. Again, I'm plugging 0 in for x and 0 in for y. So I'm going to have 2 times 0 minus 3 times 0 less than 1. So 0 minus 0, or just 0 is less than 1. Yep, that looks good. 0 is less than 1. So my final answer will be, in set brackets, 2, 3 worked and 0, 0 worked. And that's my answer. All right, and the last problem we are going to look at is a real-world problem dealing with the inequalities. Okay, this one says define the variable, write an inequality and graph, then name a solution and interpret the meaning of that. So we got, it says a yearbook company promises to give the junior class a picnic if they spend at least $2,800 on yearbooks and class rings. Each yearbook costs $35 and each class ring costs $140. How many yearbooks and class rings must the junior class buy to get their picnic? Okay, so now because I have an XY axis here, I'm actually going to have two variables. There's two things I'm looking for. I need to find out how many yearbooks, and then I need to find out how many class rings. All right, so those are going to be my variables. I'm going to make x equal to the number of yearbooks and y equal to the number of rings. Okay, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead down here and put number of yearbooks. And over here, I'm going to put number of rings. Okay, and then of course at the top, class picnic, or whatever you want to put there, but give it some sort of title. All right, so now I'm going to write my inequality. And on my inequality here, it says I need at least $28,000 worth of cells. So I'm going to start off 28,000, okay? And that's going to be the smallest number I want. So I'm going to have that alligator mouth eat the other side. Now, I'm okay equaling that since it says at least that, okay? And then if I'm looking here, it says $35 for a yearbook. And I've got a number of yearbooks. So I'm going to go ahead and put 35x, and I'm going to add on my $140 for my rings. So 140y. Okay? Now, with all graphing, we must solve for y. So I'm going to subtract the 35 off, and I've got 140y is greater than or equal to negative 35x plus 28,000. Then I'm going to divide everything by 140. So that cancels. So I have y greater than or equal, and this is just going to reduce to 1/4 x, and when I go ahead and divide that, I get plus 200. All right, so now over here on my graph, I need to graph, but I'm going to have to set up numbers that are going to work. So what I'm going to do is, since I got to go up to 200, I think I have enough room, I'm going to go ahead and count by 25s here, and then if I do that here, I'm going to go ahead and do it on my x-axis as well, just to make things easy when I do my slope. So I'm going to have 25, 50, 75. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the way up, 25, 50, again just counting by 25s, so get a little scrunchy here. And up to 200. All right, so now this is telling me I'm going to start up at 200, so I'm starting at 200, and a slope of negative 1/4 says down 1 and over 4. And I'm going to go ahead and again just put that all the way across my grid. Okay, because I have an equal sign here, I can go ahead and put a solid line. Get my arrow there. Now, over here, again, shading, y is greater than or equal. So greater than means I would need to shade above. So I'm going to shade above here. Okay. Now, the last part of the direction says, name a solution and interpret the meaning. So a solution would have to be some point in which you've shaded. It doesn't matter. There's infinitely many solutions up here. You can pick anything. Everybody's going to pick something different, and that's okay. So here, I'm going to go ahead and just pick, let's see, we'll do this spot right, this point right here. So that coordinate point is 125, 200. Okay? So again, remember, just go over on your x, 125, and then I'm going up to 200. So now, when it says interpret it, now I need to write some words. Okay? So, to earn at least $28,000, we're talking about the junior class here, they must sell 125 yearbooks and 200 class rings. That's what that coordinate point right here would be telling us. All right.